County, Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. Let's start with a roll call.
Counselor Young,
Here.
Counselor Belcott,
Present.
Counselor Fuentes,
Here.
Counselor Little is not present, and Chair Marshall.
Here. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, if I could add under 9.1 under executive session, it's pending litigation for 10 minutes, no after action. And just for the record, it's RCW 42-30-1101I.
42-0.
42.30.1101I.
1 and I. Okay, 10 minutes pending litigation. So is that after action pending? No, after
No
action.
after action.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to public comment, and I have a couple things I'd like to say before we open that up. It's for 3 minutes only. If you state the agenda item that you'll be speaking to, we'd appreciate that. And I do want to read a little bit from our rules and procedures about public comment. There are certain code of conduct that we hold ourselves to, and we expect the same from the public. We want to hear from you, but we'd like it to be civil. So just to share this with you, persons addressing the council will not make statements or remarks that concern private activities, lifestyles, or beliefs of others, including individual county employees or elected officials. Topics unrelated to the business of the county or professional duties and performance of county employees or employees of elected officials. Persons addressing the council will refrain from conduct, statements, or remarks that are defamatory to county staff, uncivil, rude, vulgar, profane, or otherwise disruptive to the conducting of council business. And if one does engage in that, I can ask you to stop. If you don't stop, we may call a recess, or we could retire to our offices and conduct the meeting online. We don't want to do that. So I hope you will all cooperate. Thank you. And with that, let's open public comment.
Mary Goody,
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Goody, and I'm a board member of the Friends of Clark County. Our organization has been working collaboratively with Clark County since 1996 to protect our quality of life and economic viability for everyone. We represent thousands of supporters who are residents of Clark County and constituents of this council. I have appeared before you in the past regarding the Dabbler Legacy Forest timber auction. And today I'm addressing the trust lands visit. As you are aware, FOCC partnered with the Legacy Forest Defense Coalition through litigation in an attempt to obtain an injunction to stop the logging of irreplaceable legacy forest in eastern Clark County. We were unsuccessful in that litigation as the court gave the timber company approval to clear cut while there was still active litigation underway. And at the same time, this council had unanimously asked for a pause to the cutting, ensuring that the case would become moot prior to the merits hearing. In response to concerns and the broader community's robust engagement with you in support of the protection of legacy forests, the council wrote a letter to the DNR and asked for a public work session with the Public Lands Commissioner, a pause of the Dabbler timber sale, and a framework for conserving older growth forests throughout Clark County going forward. None of these actions have occurred. Although We are now faced with another dabbler situation with SEPA filing and determination of non-significance issued by the DNR recently on the turnover timber sale units. Another sale in Clark County, the Dendrophobia, is next, although it has not entered the SEPA process. Clark County Public Works was notified about this on April 23rd, 2025. We have recently learned that there are 3 more units to be added to this group. So, 2. So there will be 4: turnover, Dendrophobia, Copperhead, and Looking Lens. So FOCC asks the council to get on the record with the proposed turnover sale now and be proactive in watching the status of the other 3 units. Invite community advocates and local press to the planned DNR site tours of the trust land. Invite at least 1 community representative to the planned closed door meeting with the DNR, and follow through with the council's promise to uphold Up the Grove to the.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Carmen De Leon.
Hi, I'm Carmen. That would be me. I go by Mello. And just as a reminder, it's Mental Health Month. It's Mental Health Month. And I have asked for respect on that. So as a reminder, you know, have some respect for people. Anyways, so we're going to talk about these minutes. And I made the error of saying just 900 calls when I meant in May, which last May it was 700 calls to 911 in the city of Vancouver, and they call it a success. And actually now we had 900, so it's worse. So the city of Vancouver is getting worse. I hope you're not listening to them and being followers. Anyways, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about what was earlier, so I guess I just won't say that. Because they said that you guys are they're gonna have sellers of some of this clear cut land. And aren't you the ones to make the rule to say China can't buy stuff? Because we can't be selling nothing to China, no land to China. This needs to stay. If you're born in the USA, you can own something. But if you come with the Chinese interests in our land, you don't get to buy it. And who else makes the rules but you guys? You know? So anyways, that was on the minutes of whatever, the June 7th, 18th. And that's why I'm saying it. If anybody has a right to say it, you guys have to mandate, you have to grow bamboo, you have to grow hemp. You can't keep destroying our forests. We're saving it for a reason, you know? And that's because it's precious and you can't grow it overnight. So anyways, I covered that and I covered that. Yeah, so you guys make the rules. And, oh, can I talk about the bikes? Because I unfortunately had to leave because I don't want to have a heart attack by having a post-traumatic stress attack provoked in me. So I want to be peaceful and talk about no bike stress. And I'm telling you, when you take people's bike lane and it's empty and you're in a hurry to get somewhere and nobody's using that bike lane and you're getting less and less bike lanes, you're pissing the crowd off. I mean, people are mad. Yeah. And they were talking about the stress of the bike. That's why I said, I don't know if it was on the agenda today. They were talking about bikes and stress. And I'm just saying, you can't make this a bike city. It's not even safe. In the summer, do it all you want. But in the winter, I'm not going to ride in 3 inches of rain. You know, there's puddles everywhere. It's not safe. So you want less bike stress? Yeah, we need a safer. And we need to make it friendly, but we have to know that in the winter, it becomes life-threatening and unsafe. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, I have 10 more minutes. Okay. Oh, I was just going to say that the brain, when it lacks oxygen, you yawn. So when you yawn, it's because your brain isn't getting enough oxygen. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the room that would like to testify?
Good afternoon. My name is Almendra Velasquez. I am with Fourth. There we go. Is this better? All right. My name is Almendra Velasquez. I'm with Fourth Point Forward as their climate and health coordinator. I'm a former member of the EJC group, and part of the CBO coalition. I'm commenting today on the ag land comprehensive plan today. A coalition of 13 community-based organizations advancing equity and the voices of historically and systemically underrepresented communities in Clark County Comprehensive Planning recently submitted a letter to you. We asked the confirmation of receipt, but have not yet heard anything from counselors by Belcott, my apologies, Young and Little. So on behalf of the coalition, I'd like to read an excerpt from that letter. The coalition hopes to meet you individually to discuss these demands. We urge the council to prioritize housing equity, climate requirements on the Growth Management Act for the future of county residents. We need an agricultural land study. Currently, the comprehensive plan does not require consideration for food security. However, land studies may consider food security issues. We urge the county council to require that food security be prioritized in its ag land study. We need a preferred land use alternative. We urgently request the county to adopt a land use alternative which prioritizes climate, equity, and resilience. We urge you to consider these demands related to climate resilience and equity by preserving agricultural land and the use of all the usable farmland in our food security. Reduce sprawl, prioritize actual affordable housing in infill development, adopt parking reform based on CB 5184, expand tree canopy, increase parks to address county parks level of service deficient to provide for the well-being of residents. Counselors, it's important to consider how BIPOC community feels unheard in decisions like agricultural land study. We hope you see this form. We hope you see from this perspective and incorporate the needs in your decision making. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And I'll just let you know that your comments will be submitted for the record as part of the comprehensive plan update.
Heidi Cody.
Hello. My name is Heidi Cody. This is about the Ag Study Update, item number 4.2. A recent Oregon Public Broadcasting article entitled Clark County Leaders Debate Future Growth and How to Balance Saving Farmland with Building Houses featured Clark County Council Chair Sue Marshall, a developer from Ridgefield named George Zimmerly, and a quote from the Mayor of Ridgefield, Matt Cole. Mayor Cole said, I'm quoting, "There's this idea of adding more density, and for bigger metropolitan areas, I think that makes total sense. But you have to build a community that fits the identity and vision of what you have. You can see Mount St. Helens on a good day. This is why people live here. It's beautiful," he said, "but they're still moving here, so we've got to accommodate them." To those of us in the CBO Coalition who are advocating for equity in the comprehensive plan process, a few things are obvious here. The identity Mayor Cole refers to is folks who can afford million-dollar houses in Ridgefield. Point 2, Ridgefield continues to not build affordable housing, and apparently that's by design. This amounts to exclusionary zoning, which is fundamentally inequitable. Since 2023, the city of La Center has not issued any permits for multi-housing construction. Affordable housing is required by the Growth Management Act. Zimmerly, the developer, states that his Ridgefield apartment development will include nearly 1,000 units priced at 80% of the median income, as well as 200 senior care units, but notably that is still much higher than what the Washington Department of Commerce deems affordable, which Commerce says is actually 50% of the median income. The county needs to hold all cities within the county accountable to actually build diverse housing types and affordable housing. We urge council to prioritize the housing equity and climate requirements of the Growth Management Act in the comprehensive plan for a more equitable future for all Clark County residents. Congrats to Chair Marshall on your bumper crop of hazelnuts. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Ian Harkins.
Good afternoon, councilors. Ian Harkins here on behalf of the Building Industry Association of Clark County. Just want to reiterate the prior comments we've made in the record in support of going forward with the ag land study. We believe it's not only extremely important, but also required as part of the comprehensive plan update. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miriam Green.
Good afternoon, councilors. My name is Meridian Green. I want to speak on the agenda item, the Ag Land Study Comp Plan Update. The broad coalition of community-based organizations submitted a letter to the council on June 17th. The letter represents our collective frustration with the decision by 3 council members to move forward with the Ag Land Study. Please take time to read the letter in its entirety. Today, I'd like to call your attention to the following paragraph regarding reducing sprawl. Ensure that any land added to the new urban growth boundary is designated for diverse housing types, including duplexes, fourplexes, and multifamily developments, and hold all cities within Clark County accountable to actually build diverse housing types and affordable housing. Missing the GMA deadline is egregious because the cities of La Center and Ridgefield, who are pushing for this land study, have historically ignored and continue to ignore the need for equitable, affordable housing within their boundaries. This issue is important for the County Council to address because the cities are not only ignoring the need for equity and affordable housing. City officials have recently gone on the record declaring their intention to continue this historic inequity. The Oregon Public Broadcasting story titled Clark County Leaders Debate Future Growth and How to Balance Saving Farmland with Building includes the following. Ridgefield is attractive because it remains semi-rural and less urban density than Vancouver, but still offers easy access to amenities, according to Mayor Matt Cole. There is this idea of adding more density, and for bigger metropolitan areas, I think that makes total sense, he said. But you have to build a community that fits the identity and vision of what you have. Ridgefield's mayor is confirming the city's intention to preserve its identity as a less inclusive and ongoingly inequitable community. Ridgefield and La Center seem intent upon a sprawling development that ignores the need and mandates for affordable housing. To be clear, the affordable housing includes housing for low-income households earning far less than 80% of the AMI in Ridgefield. The median income in Ridgefield was $117,550 in 2023. 3 county councilors who voted to move forward with the hasty ag land study are in effect aiding and abetting the city of Ridgefield in its efforts to ignore requirements for equitable and affordable housing. Please consider the following from 1181. Encourage involvements of citizens in planning and ensure coordination between communities and jurisdictions to reconcile
Sorry, your
conflicts.
time's up.
I'll submit the last of it. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
I know there were some people that didn't get a chance to sign up. If you would like to make a public comment, can you raise your hand? Teresa Hardy? Okay. I see the other 2.
Teresa Hardy, Sierra Club, speaking in support of the FOCC letter. On February 20th of this year, the council told Commissioner Upthegrove and the DNR that our community values our remaining legacy forests. You asked for a policy framework that promotes these older forests for conservation. You also asked them to pause the Dabbler timber sale. Since then, the DNR auctioned off the Dabbler anyway, even after a legal appeal was filed, and according to the motion to withdraw from Legacy Forest Defense Coalition and Friends of Clark County, the DNR proceeded to lift winter restrictions on logging and road building and approved expedited logging in February, well before the original contract date of May 1st. In addition, they did not produce the administrative record they were required to, forcing the appellants to make their case for a preliminary injunction without the record, leading them to lose the preliminary injunction and rendering the case moot by the time it got to the merits hearing. This forced LFDDC and FOCC to pull out of the litigation, as the DNR had ensured that there would be nothing to save by the time their day came in court. As a result, our beloved dabbler is forever gone. This is a routine, unethical tactic employed by the DNR, one they have been sanctioned for many times over in other counties. The Pacific County Superior Court just sanctioned last month with steep penalties for this very same behavior, making a finding that DNR has violated its statutory obligation. The Whatcom County Superior Court also sanctioned the DNR for failing to timely produce the administrative record while simultaneously allowing logging operations to proceed, exactly what they did with Dabbler. Furthermore, the DNR chose not to leave any buffers to the old growth with Dabbler, despite what the counselors requested during your work session with the DNR, and again, despite your request for protection of legacy forests. They have moved forward now with prepping the turnover sale for auction. We ask the following ask: get on record with the proposed turnover sale now and be proactive in watching the status of Dendrophobia, Copperhead, and Looking Lens. Invite community advocates and local press to the planned DNR sites. Invite at least one community representative to the planned closed-door meeting with the DNR, Timbers Industry, Cascade Forest Conservancy, and others. Follow through on the council's promise to hold Upper Grove to the public work session that he agreed to. Thank you.
Thank you.
With the green shirt, please come up, state your name for the record, and go ahead with your public comment.
Alondra Abreu Viveros. I'm here representing Southwest Washington Equity Coalition, part of the broader coalition of community-based organizations that submitted a letter regarding the agricultural land study and the upcoming land use alternatives. We appreciate the effort behind the comprehensive plan, but today I urge the council to recognize the critical gap. Food security is not required to be considered in the agricultural land study. That must change. Food security is a basic right, not a policy option. As we face economic instability and climate uncertainty, we must preserve all unusable farmland to support local agricultural and reduce dependence on imported food, which accounts for 28% of Clark County's greenhouse gas emissions. This is not just an environmental policy, it's a survival policy. Currently, the plan says food security may be considered. That's not enough. It must be required. According to Clark County's 2023 Community Needs Assessment, 87% of low-income households identified food assistance as their top need. Today, more than 48,000 residents, over 10% of our population, face food insecurity with a 27 million annual shortfall. These are not just numbers. These are our neighbors making impossible choices between food, rent, and medicine. We also urge the council to adopt a land use alternative that prioritizes climate resilience, equity, and smart growth. Reduce sprawl and ensure any urban growth boundary expansion includes diverse, affordable housing. Cities like La Center and Ridgefield have not built multifamily housing in years, and that's not an equitable or sustainable. Reduce vehicle miles traveled. Focus on infill development, support SB 5184, invest in parks and tree canopy. Finally, I want to center something critical. The communities most impacted by these decisions, low-income residents, working-class families, people just barely surviving are the same people who vote you into these seats. You were elected to represent them. Their voices and their realities must be your priority, not as an afterthought, but as the foundation of your policy making. Our communities are not asking for special treatment. We're asking for dignity and a future we can all share. The decision you make on this council have real consequences for real people, especially those living paycheck to paycheck, raising families and caring for elderlies on limited incomes. This isn't just about policy, it's about people, and the people who elected you are counting on you to lead with courage, compassion, and committed to equity. We urge you to move forward with actions that reflect the voices of your constituents, not those with the power, but those with lived experience and deep roots in the county.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
And I know that there was what, there you are. Please state your name for the record and go ahead with your comment.
Hi, my name is Tanya Inger, and I'm speaking on the Trust Lands Visit Policy Updates agenda item. On February 20th, you told Commissioner Updegrove and the DNR that Clark County contains very few remaining legacy forest resources in older tree areas. The Dabbler Sale contains structurally complex natural forests that are approaching old growth and are highly valued by our community. You told them that these forests are extremely valuable for recreation as well as economic opportunities that exist beyond harvest alone. And you told them that you wanted to create a policy framework for harvest in the county that promotes saving these older forests for conservation. And you also asked them to pause the Dabbler timber sale, which obviously didn't happen. So since then, the DNR has answered none of those requests other than meeting with you in closed door meetings and a work session that did not provide public input opportunity about our public lands. They're currently clear cutting the Dabbler now, which is one of the last oldest forests that we have left. And I want to say that I agree with the concerns outlined in Friends of Clark County's recent letter to you. So it seems like there's another closed door meeting proposed with the DNR. And let's see. And all of this is getting planned and nothing is being followed through on those requests. So I want to support the 4 asks from Friends of Clark County and hope that you'll remember these in your Trust Lands Visit agenda item, which are get on the record with the proposed turnover sale and be proactive in watching the status of the other legacy forest land sales, Dendrophobia, Copperhead, and Looking Lens. Invite community advocates to these meetings, like people that actually know what's happening, instead of just continually getting a script from DNR. Such as the timber industry, which you already have voiced, Cascade Forest Conservancy. There's many others. We don't need to be having closed door meetings. We can invite the community and have public input. And also follow through on the council's promise to hold Updegrove to the public work session that he agreed to. And yeah, if you don't, if this is too much to ask, like, why don't we have any citizen oversight committees about forestry? Like, if this is all over your head, like, how come there isn't?
Thank you. Your time is up.
All right, thank you.
Was there anybody else in the room before I go to online that didn't get a chance to speak? Okay. Caller, you've been sent a request to unmute. Please state your name for the record and go ahead with your comment.
Good afternoon, Kimberly Goheen Elbin again. Since Sue Marshall addressed how the public, the taxpayer, your boss that pays your bills as you do our business, you addressed us today with your lessons. And so as to how we should treat you at our meetings. But what can we say of your treatment of we the people? There's rudeness has
Could you
prevailed.
state the agenda item you're speaking to?
Yes, I am. Well, you spoke, and so I want to say that from a few council members that have been rude to the people. So I wanted to just put that out on record. And actually followed Fuentes to make a motion to stop the flag salute and prayer invocations. So it's evident something is
that
wrong.
is not on
and
the
it's not
agenda.
we the people.
Is
But,
there
so
something
I'm
on the
gonna go to
agenda
the
you'd like to
minutes.
speak to?
I'm going
Okay,
to go to the minutes now,
please.
Chair. And the minutes are stating that in the minutes are you guys, the Kimsey got Auditor of the Year. Well, I must and ask other citizens to hold Greg Kimsey accountable and answer why he put out expensive posters at taxpayer dollars, that he dictated propaganda. And I urge him to make a public statement as to the expense of hundreds of 2x3 poster size RCW rules that were a lie to the people on Voters' Day last year, and that he cannot be trusted with our hard-earned tax dollars. That's all there is to it. And to the elected officials such as himself and all entities, stop doing the wrong thing, follow the Constitution, and find Jesus. As far as 4.2, the comp plan, stop all growth and implement a no growth overlay over Clark County. Sustain us. We need to sustain what we have, be thankful, and I'll add that to leave our farmlands, our open spaces, and forests alone. We must sustain now. As you know, the whole earth is polluted, and I consider overpopulation a form of pollution. Also, affordable housing, in short, is mostly a scam using hard-earned tax dollars. It makes big government, and the same with the parks and trust programs that we have going on. It's making a larger government. Wake up now, Clark County. That last speaker was correct. You guys are following an agenda sanctuary.
Is there anyone else online? I think she's cutting out.
God is always good. Amen.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, that concludes public comment. Moving on to old business, minutes of June 18th, 2025. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you for your second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Okay, 4.2, comp plan dash ag study update.
Good afternoon, Council. We wanted to provide Council an update on the ag study RFP process. The RFP did go out. Just as a reminder, the scope of work is actually defined in the Washington Administrative Code and the WACs. We did receive 4 proposals. One did not submit all the required information, so therefore it is not being considered moving forward. We had a team within Clark County that reviewed the proposal and evaluated based on the following criteria. The proposal approach, which is the firm's approach to this work, including requirements, innovative offerings, services, and other related matters. Experience of the firm, length of time that they've been in business, and other matters relating to relevant experience and experience of individuals assigned to this project. Work history, references, and project-specific criteria, which includes the ability of the firm to deliver the project based on the scope of work and the volume of the business. Based on our review internally, there was one proposal that rose to the top, and we're in that process of finalizing the review and also again providing the update to council. As council can recall, you directed the study to be completed by September 1. Staff reached out to the top proposal to clarify on the schedule. Based on their feedback, it is noted that best case scenario, if they were to have started this work on July 1, it would not be complete until the end of October, which is beyond the September 1 date. Since this contract will not be in front of council until July 15th, it would be mid-November, end of November, best case scenario. We wanted to make sure that council had this information prior to staff negotiating the contract, including the cost to bring it back on July 15th, as the completion date would be different than council's direction. So for our next steps, we're happy to answer any questions. And then based on the questions and feedback today, the next step is that staff will reach out to this consultant and engage in the thoughtful negotiations, including the cost, in hopes to have that back to you by July 15th. Is there any questions or concerns? We just want to be transparent that the timeline is different than what council had directed.
Any questions from council?
I don't have a chair. I don't have a question. I am concerned about the timeline. So the best proposal, just to clarify, that we received could start as early as July 15th based on when we approve the contract. Correct. And they do not expect this study to be concluded until mid to late November.
Yes.
That's approximately 30 days before the comprehensive plan is due.
Yes, but there are some other timelines, so it will not be completed until after the first of the year because there's timelines and when we have to get stuff to Commerce.
Right. Thank you.
I have a question. So I think the last timeline that we looked at put the completion out, assuming that September 1 date would hold to mid-January. So are there thoughts of how far out it might go with this? I don't know if you've had a chance to do a new timeline or have thoughts.
Good afternoon, Councillors. Oliver Jacko, Community Planning Director, and with me is Jose Alvarez. That's a good question, Councillor. The updated schedule we shared with Council puts us with the completion of the ARC study by September 1st, puts us into mid-January of 2026. With this additional 1 month likely delay or the completion of that study, we are looking at, I have to modify the schedule. My preliminary review puts us into end of March or first week in April. That's my best guess if everything works out. Okay.
That kind of took my breath away. Okay.
We will do our best to see if we can get close to March. That I can promise that. But
I know you had mentioned earlier that there is within the SEPA process, if the public wants additional time to comment, that could add an additional 30 days onto it. So your timeline does not include that prospect.
I am factoring it in just in case.
Okay, good. That makes sense. Then the other question I had and concern is, what impact will this have on the other cities if we're delayed? So Vancouver is doing their own EIS, but for all of the other cities, they fall under our EIS. So it means that every city and except Vancouver and the city will be delayed. And would we be considered out of compliance with the GMA during that time, or would that take an appeal to trigger that?
I will let our legal counsel speak to that. I will only say that Commerce will classify Clark County and all the other cities, with the exception of Vancouver, if they completed on time, as our plan being overdue. Now, the question will be, as you're alluding, is if the county is appealed for the fact that we missed our statutory deadline, I don't know what the growth board is going to rule, so I'll leave the answer to that to legal counsel. They could, because the completion date is in statute, they could rule like us being out of compliance. I just don't know.
Would it take an appeal, though, before that would even get to
Yes.
the management hearing board?
Yes.
Do you want to rule on that, Chris?
Christine Cook, Chief Civil Deputy Prosecuting Attorney. I don't have the power to rule on anything.
I guess the point is that there's a lot of uncertainty as we move forward.
That's one way you could put it. Yes.
Okay. All right. And then for the cities, it would mean a delay of whatever plans they were beginning to implement. I just wonder if we've had a dialogue with the cities that will be in the same boat with us and what their thoughts are.
It is, if your direction is for us to move with this firm, we will be having that conversation with them on the premise, just like we have shared with council, that we don't know which firm we are going to get, and that it's likely that the 2 months or the time frame could be very not optimal. I have been saying that for quite some time, and we will communicate that with our cities. In the last conversation that I had with them, I did share with them that they have been following your decision and directions. So I will share with them what our new timeline will look like. Will they be happy? I don't think so, but they have no choice. Really, they have to follow us. We happen to be the lead agency on the SIPA, so they can't really make certain decisions without following the council direction and decision as well. We have to get the preferred plan, as you know, which will lead to the final EIS work. So that is why they may not be happy with us, but they have to follow that process, because you will be the one, finally, the council choosing what the preferred is.
And just in terms of timing, we would have to wait till the ag study is completed before we are able to make a selection on the preferred alternative, correct?
Yes.
And when might that, would the council be considering that?
Jose, do you want to?
So, Jose Alvarez with Community Planning. Based on the new timeline for getting the ag study done at the end of November, we're looking at December to possibly to go, depending on when we get it in November. The next step would be for the Planning Commission and the council to have meetings to select the preferred alternative.
Okay. So we're in a difficult spot, and I know you're looking to us for some direction. So here are my thoughts. And the council, majority of the council directed this ag study. And if we're going to do an ag study, and I can see value in doing an ag study, I had hoped it would be apart from the deadline we needed to meet. But we need to do a study that we have some confidence in. And I think probably to the credit of this consultant firm that they acknowledge that it will take longer, that lends them credibility in my mind. And if we know we're going to be late, and if we're late, if we're late, we're late. If we're late a week or 3 months, does that, except for the cities probably being inconvenienced, it just seems like it makes sense to go with the best applicant. Any other thoughts from the council?
Chair, I would agree. I appreciate them coming in and saying that they can't complete it on time. That means that we're going to get good quality results from them. So I agree.
Chair?
Yes, please.
I just agree with Councillor Young. And from what I understand from other conversations with other commissioners and councillors around the state, they are facing some of the similar challenges with meeting the deadline. So I know that we're not the only one, but I'd rather have good data as far as the study goes versus hasty information that we really can't use.
Thank you for your comments. Kath? Kathleen, did you want to share some
Yeah,
information?
I just wanted to share, and at least with the city of Vancouver, it was expressed to me that they're struggling to meet the deadline with the EIS because of the new requirements that were required, which I think is why the state extended that deadline by 6 months. But climate and I think there was one other piece. So they're struggling with
It's climate and housing.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So, putting the study aside, yes, jurisdictions are struggling, including the city of Vancouver, to try to get this completed by that deadline.
Are there other jurisdictions throughout the state? Because I think, was there 8 counties that were on the forefront of this?
The only counties that I know that their plans was due last December was King County, Snohomish, I believe Thurston and Kitsap. They all submitted, but I believe there's some cities within King County that have not completed. But we are on the what is called 2025 adopters. I don't have all the counties in front of me, but the 2025 adopters, the legislature extended that deadline to December rather than June. And then the other counties, some are not fully GMA counties, but some, their plans are, I know the 2026 adopters, the legislature have extended their deadline to December of 2026 rather than June. So I believe that for 2027 adopters, the legislature will likely give them another 6 months. But for us 2025 adopters, I'm not aware of any of the counties that have submitted or saying that they won't submit. But it's true that other communities or other jurisdictions are still having difficulty with the climate bill and the housing requirements, which is what I've been sharing with council, that part of this update, our primary focus is going to be on housing and the climate bill, on how we prepare, because those are real new bills that the legislature passed. And then the climate bill is another one that every community is struggling.
Chair. Oliver, just to clarify, if it weren't for the ag study, we would be on track to complete the comprehensive plan by the end of this year, correct?
I will confidently say yes.
Okay. I mean, I propose to go back to our original plan and delay the ag study until after the comprehensive plan is completed but I suspect that we probably would be a deadlock here.
I could support that, but I don't know if there's a third that would at this point. Doesn't look like it. Okay.
I tried.
I know. Thank you. Any other comments from anyone on the council?
Chair, just one other comment.
Yes.
And appreciate all the folks that come out and communicate with us. And I believe I forward this to the other counselors, but I've consistently heard some messaging about Ridgefield and the number of units that they are producing multifamily. And so I reached out to the city manager to ask him, and he did send me a response. And anybody that wishes to, feel free to send me an email and I'll forward that information to you. But from his email, that in the past few years, they've added 495 units of multifamily housing, and that there are currently 430 units that are in some point of the permitting process. That there are 450 acres that are currently zoned for multifamily, and that with their preferred alternative, which includes the expansion, there would be 1,228 gross acres that will be upzoned, so density increased in those acreage. So just wanted to communicate that, and feel free to ask. I'm happy to forward that information to anybody.
Thank you for that information. Any other comments, thoughts? Do you feel like you have?
I need 3 councillors to say yes, proceed with this firm so that we can be able to make that July 15.
I would support that. I think you have 4.
So thank you, councillors.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Chris, Amber?
Okay, let's move on to item 5 here, new business.
None today.
No new business. Councilor reports? I have a couple of reports. I wanted to report that the first meeting of the Ag Commission kicked off on Monday. Everyone attended in person. There's some enthusiasm there. We have a very diverse group of farmers and the food system expertise. So I'm excited. I think we conveyed to them that it's very timely for them to be getting started right now, and I feel like we're tossing them into the deep end, but I think they'll do a great job. They need a meeting or two to approve the bylaws and things like that, but I feel very positive about it. And then also there was a flash alert that came out that the county put out related to fireworks, and since we're not going to be meeting again till after the 4th, I just want to call people's attention to that. Fireworks will begin to be sold this Saturday. And on the county's website, if you go to community development and then click on fire prevention and then fireworks, there's a good list of and an interactive map. So you can see, because their rules vary between the cities and the counties. But for Clark County, the unincorporated area, fireworks can only be utilized from 9 to midnight on the 4th. That's this Friday. And then I just also like to mention that there's a special telephone line for nuisance complaints related to fireworks that will begin July 3rd through the 5th. And please don't use 911 or 311 for those complaints, because that will really just tie up the emergency response. But we'll be keeping track of everything that happens related to public safety on the 4th, and that'll be reported back to the council, and maybe we'll have a chance to talk about fireworks again, but stay safe out there.
Chair, I do have one
Yes,
report I almost
go ahead.
forgot. So I wanted to thank Friends of Clark County last week for hosting a panel. I think it was incredibly informative to the community. It was a good conversation that talked about some of the important issues in the comp plan update. And I also wanted to give kudos to our staff member, Jenna Kay, who participated, Councilor Fuentes as well. I think it was a great conversation, and a lot of factual information was shared that was important for the public to be able to look at. So thank you.
Great. Any other councilor reports? Okay, moving on, work session requests.
Yes, so as you guys know, the state did not continue with the funding for Vancouver Lake Management Plan, and there was some initial discussion with council. So this is for Public Works to come back and talk about that, and also the results of Phase 2, which just completed on June 30th, or will complete on June 30th, and then talk about what next steps looks like without any dedicated funding. So it's just to get an update on that.
Great, thanks. How does the council feel about that? Thumbs up on Vancouver Lake update? Great, we all agree to that? Okay, policy updates. Trust land visit, we have some people still in the audience that are concerned about that issue. So Jordan, tell us everything you know.
All right. Good afternoon, Council. For the record, Jordan Bogey, policy analyst. Yes, so I had a chance to chat with Sarah Ogden from the Department of Natural Resources about the trust lands visit that we talked about with them prior. And I was given a couple of potential options for council for those that would like to go on the trust lands visit. There are two potential windows that DNR is looking at that they would be available that might work for council. The first is August 8th. And the second potential window would be mid-September probably that Thursday or Friday, the 11th or 12th of September. And based on council's interest and desire, this could be either a half-day tour of various sites or a full-day tour. Based on council's interest, there are some different sites that could be looked at, including some reforestation sites, some of the older, more mature stands, looking at Larch Camp, or others as council is interested. It sounds like there are a few different options that could be worked through once council is interested in a date. We would work together with them to develop an agenda, and that would include some of the things that council has talked about, including potentially how we might be able to engage in the land swap program that does have some state funding, but has been mostly in just a handful of counties that have been really kind of engaged in that land swap process. So different ways to conserve structurally complex forests, talking a little bit more about trust beneficiaries and how that process might work under a different kind of framework, some of the thinning and cutting practices that they currently are doing, and some of the things that they're thinking about doing. The other thing that was mentioned on that call was that one of the first things that Commissioner Upthegrove did when he came in was put a 6-month pause on maturation 2 is the term. That's some of those older growth forest sales. Now, that did not apply to sales like Dabbler that were approved under the prior Commissioner and Board of Natural Resources. However, it does sound like, though turnover is currently going through the SEPA process, that pause is likely to continue. And it sounds like, although it is slated for auction at the end of September, it sounds like it's very unlikely that would happen in September. It's possible it could be later on in the fall, but that pause is still ongoing while DNR is working on a framework for conserving these more structurally complex forests. It sounds like there's quite a bit of work that goes into the modeling that they're doing on that. And so it's taken them some time to get all their ducks in a row, kind of put that policy framework together for consideration by the Commissioner and the Board of Natural Resources. So that work is ongoing, and I anticipate that would be a point of conversation as well. So really the decision point for council today is looking at those dates and whether or not council would prefer a half day or full day. And then we could work together with DNR to develop the specific agenda.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Jordan, are both dates available? When I ask, because if the majority of us want to go, not all of us can go on one day. So would they be open to potentially, if there are more than 2 counselors wanting to go, to have both those days available for a visit?
That is a good question. We did not talk about that. However, if there were more than 2 counselors that wanted to go on a particular day, it still would be possible. We just would need to publicly notice that event. So there is a world in which that could happen. But I'm happy to go back to DNR, and if there are, if everyone on the council wants to go and it wants to be in a couple of sessions, or if 4 folks want to go and in a couple of sessions, I'm happy to work to set that up.
And I'll just clarify for the public notice, it is different than like a meeting here. We simply put it on the weekly calendar, just like if you were to go to a conference or something, but you just can't deliberate on there. So you have to be very mindful on what your discussions are, but it's not like where the public's going to come and provide testimony or anything. It's just on a weekly calendar.
Other questions or comments? Go ahead.
I would just say that I'm okay with either way, full or half day. Jordan, I would trust your judgment on whether there's enough information that we need to be aware of, and enough, enough things that we need to look at and talk about, discuss to warrant the full day. And if there is, I'm happy to participate at that level. Otherwise, a half day would be good as well. And then there were a few suggestions, I believe, that we heard in public comment today, and I don't recall exactly what those were, but I don't know if there's interest in discussing those.
Well, there was a request for some of the community organizations to be involved. And I know when we discussed this at one point, because we were looking at potential land swap, and that Cascade Forest Conservancy was mentioned, and because they've already done a lot of mapping up there. And I think that's one of the reasons that things are on pause, is for the, whatever the framework is, to map that statewide. But it could be that we're, because of the work of the Cascade Forest Conservancy, might be a little bit ahead on that. So I know that was one group that was mentioned. I don't know if it was for the tour or just to look at the mapping that they've done to see if there's potential private lands that could be swapped out for some of these older forest areas. Do you recall if they were going to be part of the tour or?
At this point, I don't believe. I think right now it was just going to be DNR and county council, and perhaps if Hunter was able to come, or other counties, Kevin Tyler perhaps, or other county staff that might be relevant in terms of the policy making, inviting them. But I think that's all that had been considered up to this point. If council would like to open it up or invite other folks, I'm happy to work with them and you to make that happen.
Did you have a follow-up on that, Councilor Young?
Well, I would say that, I mean, I don't know what the transportation looks like, but I mean, this is technically a public meeting. And as far as I know, unless there is yeah, please chime in, Chris.
Well, I was just going to say, if there's a quorum, it's a public meeting. So there has to be some way of figuring out where and how that would occur. But if there's not going to be a quorum, then it doesn't have to be treated like a public meeting.
So there'd have to be some accommodation for the public to
So I would ask,
participate?
is council going to be providing direction at this meeting? Or is it just informational?
Well, that would have to be made clear. We
noticed it, but we don't allow.
But if they are, yeah, so deliberation, that would be talking with each other. I'm not sure that hearing from DNR isn't an action under OPMA. So I guess it depends on the content.
So there's a couple of questions, I think, whether or not we could do this in 2 meetings, whether or not all counselors want to participate in this. If we do it as a public meeting, I don't know that we have the answers to all of those things right now. Go ahead.
So I would be an advocate of finding the most efficient and cost-effective way of being able to accomplish, but allowing the public to be a part of the process as well.
Part of the process on that specific
Yeah,
day,
so
or
I mean, if I don't know that we would provide transportation, but
No.
we would notify when we would be where, so that the public could come and tour those areas with us at the same time.
I think we've never had this before where there's a tour or there's, or anything where we have noticed a public meeting off-site. So I think we need to look into it more, because it's still, and how are you going to manage, are you going to manage public comment? I mean, So it's not clear.
Sure. It sounds like that logistically it could be a challenge, which is why I was suggesting hopefully making both dates available, right? So that it's not a public meeting, so that we don't have to jump through these hoops and figure out how to accommodate. We can't record, right? For the sake of transparency, if there's more than 3 counselors. So, and again, I don't even know who wants to go at this point, right? I can assure you that Councilor Little probably would. He's not here today, so he's probably in. Is there anybody else on the council who'd be interested in visiting? We've got 3,
I would be interested.
4. Councilor Belcott. Okay, so Councilor Belcott, so that's 2. That's 2 different dates, 2 per date.
Well, and I think we need to check with DNR as well.
So I would suggest, again, I'm an advocate of being able to have the public be there with us at the same time. So I would suggest that we ask staff to look into what possibilities there could be for that, and also maybe probe us in terms of scheduling, and then we come back and we talk about it again.
Okay, is that clear enough, Jordan?
Just let me recap here so I make sure I got it. We've got 3. Councilor Little's not here, but we're assuming that he may be interested. So potentially 4 counselors interested in joining. It sounds like folks are okay with both a half or a full day, depending on how we build the agenda and what makes the most sense to try to get those agenda items accomplished. I will look into some of the publicly noticing requirements for something, a meeting of this type, what it would look like to be able to invite the public, and talk with DNR about the process and get a few more details and try to scope that out a little bit more clearly. And then I will also follow up with you over email about dates that counselors would prefer. And then I'll bring that all back to you at a future council time.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd support a full day though. I think a half day would probably be sufficient for a site visit.
It may take a day.
Okay.
I'm being advised it may take a whole day.
Okay, that's fair. Then let's look at full day then.
Okay, well, and when it gets down to it, we'll see how everybody's calendar looks. That may winnow things down. The other thing I wanted to ask you, Jordan, related to turnover and the other proposed cuts that are coming up. Could we get some clarification? I mean, I think there's concern that turnover is going through the SEPA process and is scheduled for sale. And if it's postponed, is it really postponed? And what about all those other, those 4 that had been, the total of 4 that had been mentioned? It would be good to get more clarity on if they're developing that framework that's going to apply to these older growth forests, and how these 4 in particular in our community may be faring in that process. I don't know what that framework would be, or if it's that mapping that they had mentioned. Should we write another letter, or could you just follow up with them and get some more information on that and report back to us in a week or 2?
Well, so I'm always happy to write a letter at the direction of council, but in the shorter term, if council's not interested in a letter, or in addition to, I will definitely follow up with DNR. I can ask them about those questions. The next DNR Board of Natural Resources meeting is next Tuesday, and I have signed up to sit in on that virtually, since we don't have a council meeting next week. So I may learn a little bit more there as well. I also was taking notes during public comment, and so I will ask about, in addition to turnover, the Dendrophobia sale, and then the 2 other units that were mentioned, the Copperhead and Looking Lens. So I'll follow up and ask for a few more details about that.
Yeah, I think getting some immediate answers would be good.
Okay. And yes, when I get with DNR staff on the phone, the sense I got was that the pause is is going to last, it was at least 6 months was my understanding from what I've been told, and could linger as they try to work on a new policy for preserving some of these more mature forests. I know that has been a stated goal of Commissioner Up the Grove, but my understanding is that it's taking some time to get all that put together, and I can clarify whether that's solely the mapping. My understanding from the conversation was it might have been a little bit more broader, like they're starting to think through some policy frameworks and potentially, rules down the line that they could propose.
Right. And my sense is this council really needs to, get a better understanding of the forest resources that we have and potential uses, including harvest and jobs and the funding that it provides, to really have a comprehensive look at it to figure out what our policy priorities are. Okay. Enough about the trust lands for now, more to come. America 250, Jordan.
Yes. So council wanted to give you just a brief update. So Chair Marshall and I yesterday met with some folks from the Clark County Historical Museum, as well as the Washington State Historical Society, to start talking about America 250. Next year, 2026, is 250 years since 1776 and the Declaration of Independence. And a number of things were discussed at that meeting. It sounds like planning is going to start with a committee of folks from some of the museums across the county in earnest in October. And there are also going to be 4 really key dates that the America 250 folks and the Washington State Historical Society are looking at for next year. And so I wanted to just flag those both for council and the public. The first one is June 14th, which is Flag Day. And there's a desire that would be a day of service. And so thinking about some different service projects that might be able to happen and working on that. Then, of course, July 4th, will be the main event. Then, there's planning, there's desire to have council issue a proclamation, as well as potentially organizing at the courthouse public reading of the Declaration of Independence. And so that is one of the events that they'd like to have as well. Then August 8th is Washington Museum Day. And so there'll be a number of events at museums across the county. And then September 17th is Constitution Day, which they're hoping is a day of civic engagement. And I do apologize if you can hear the dogs in the background.
No problem. So I would just add, there's enthusiasm, there's some resources that can be shared from the state, but largely it's unfunded and relying on local folks to coordinate amongst ourselves. So, and the Clark County Historical Museum are taking a lead role as well. Again, one of those unfunded things, but it's a great opportunity to really highlight some things. And really, we talked about acknowledging the tribes and really making this not just about, about everyone and how they've experienced it. So I feel positive about it, and we'll report back as things materialize.
Chair.
Yep.
Jordan, I wrote down 3 dates, but I missed August. What's August? Remind me.
August 8th is Washington Museum Day.
Thank you.
Okay, any other thoughts on that? Anything else from you, Jordan?
Those are the updates that I've got for you today.
Okay, I think with that, we'll be going into an executive session, 9.1, pending litigation for 10 minutes, RCW 42.30.110. It was at 1 and I. Okay, we'll be back in 10. Oh. 2:47. Oh, 2:30? We'll just do 2:30. Thanks. The council has returned from our executive session. There's no after action, and without objection, this meeting is adjourned.